participle dikaiothentes is a participle and this expression, that's all we have in the text. So it could be translated, therefore, being justified by faith. And some of them do just translate it just that way. But there is reason in the context of the verse itself of Romans 5:1 to translate it as others do, since we have been justified by faith, or because we have been justified by faith. The participle then showing the cause of the action.
Is it an aorist, is it?
Oh, pluperfect.
Yes.
Oh.
Thentes is an aorist in it. Look at your Greek chart. Thentes would be aorist passive participle masculine nominative plural. Condition is another adverbial participle. It expresses a condition that must be true if the action in the main verb is to come to fruition or happen. Galatians 6:9 is an example. We shall reap, there is some in, if we do not give up. May is the same thing as oo and ook outside of the indicative mood. This is subjunctive mood, so you're going to use may instead of oo. And then this the verb to give up is used as a participle here. We will reap if we do not give up, or we will reap if we do not faint. But I like give up better because that's the idea here. You're saying that there's something that must continue.
So you're saying it's subjunctive mood, so it sort of implies it's not necessarily going to happen, but it's conditional. I think it's the conditional aspect.
Right.
Right.
It's the condition of us reaping is not giving up. Yes?
Yep. But the nuance of this is really interesting. We will reap is indicative mood. The subjunctive phrase is the me ekluomenoi. That's the conditional part of it.
Seems like an indicative, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Well,
What
because
do
of
we-
the if.
Okay, what can we
The
learn
if makes
from
it a
that?
condition.
What does that mean, though?
There, Simon?
As,
We will
as soon as you
reap.
get an if
Okay,
to
so
anything,
sorry,
it
it's
turns it
really-
to
I'm
subjunctive.
thinking, getting confused.
It's okay, we're all kind of getting fried brain. I've noticed that throughout this class our laughter is getting different than the first night we were here.
Concession is something that should be taking place, but isn't. And here's an example. The verb philo has been turned into a participle, a philontes. He says, though, and this whole thing is the translation of this one word, though by this time you ought, and then I to be teachers, didaskoi. So it's a concession in the sense that this is something that should be happening but isn't. And a participle can be used for that as well. And it's really wouldn't be appropriate to try to make an ing word out of this. Oughting to be teachers, it doesn't work.
Oh, I see.
For
So
the oughting.
sometimes just the pasting on the ing at the end won't work in English. So you have to understand, the translators have been working with this concept that these participles mean something, and they try to make the best guess as to what that meaning is in the context. Here, it's pretty clear that we're dealing with a concession. Something that should be true, but isn't, and therefore, this is a statement of that fact. Purpose is another adverbial use of a participle. Matthew 27:49, we've already used this as an example. Here is an example. We take a look at that participle. We had been looking at this text. Let us see whether Elijah will come to save him. And again, we saw that this is not an infinitive, this is a participle. And so the idea is that there's a purpose to which this main verb, erketai, would be put into play, and that purpose would be the idea of to save, this main verb, this participle rather. Attendant circumstances is rare, but when you come across a participle that appears to have the same strength as the verb that is being used with, then you might want to try attendant circumstance. And basically, it's being used as if it was a verb that went right along with the main verb. The main verb in this phrase is preached. They preached. But you've got this participle here, meaning they went out. The participial form of exerchomai. All right, so what do you do with it? Well, most translators do something like this. They went out and preached. And basically this says something. This says that generally this participle has the same kind of pressure and point and purpose and use as the main verb. But the big question is, why then use a participle? Why not use just another verb? There are some areas where I think the translators have too quickly jumped into using a participle as a main verb. And the one that I think that is most important is Matthew 28:19, where most people will translate it, go therefore and make disciples. But of course, make disciples is the only imperative. The verb go there is actually a participle.
Yeah, so it's going.
Can be going, but I would argue that a better translation even than going is after you go. I would translate it as a adverbial participle of time. It's aorist tense, and so I'd translate it after you go, because Jesus is in Galilee. Before they go anywhere, they've got to go to Jerusalem. And so, as I understand it, Jesus is telling them, after you go to Jerusalem, then command, make disciples.